Welcome to the Knits and Things podcast. My name is Heather. I can be found as Heather219 on Ravelry and Instagram. I'm also out on Google Plus, and I'm Heather V there, as well as on the YouTube channel, which is where you can find the videos most easily. But there's also a link in the Ravelry group for the Knits and Things podcast, as well as on my blog, which is www.knitsandthings.wordpress.com. My blog is the only place where you actually have to spell out the and. Usually it's just a capital N. Everywhere else. So welcome to the show. Today is Friday, November 29th, 2013, and it's Black Friday. Did you make it? Did you survive? I hope everybody had a happy Thanksgiving. I do not do Black Friday at all. Well, I shouldn't say that. I don't go out to the stores. A couple times in the past when my son was a little bit younger and gifts were easy to come by at Toys R Us, I went on Thursday nights. I know, don't hate me. I would go on Thursday nights. Actually, I tried going. 2 years in a row, I tried going out after Thanksgiving dinner to a Toys R Us. We have a Toys R Us nearby us. Actually, there's only a couple in the area. There's one, I think there's just the one in Clinton. Is there one in Waldorf these days? I think there's a Babies R Us in Waldorf. Anyway, there's a Toys R Us near us that is just a standalone store. It's not in a big mall. It's in a teeny tiny strip mall where everything was closing out. You know, it's one of those malls where everything has left and gone to one of the bigger, newer places. And for a while, half the stores were empty. And the Toys R Us isn't really even attached to that mall. The mall is there, and then there's a road that goes in between, and then there's a Toys R Us store, and it's all by itself. So I figured, oh my gosh, nobody's going to go to that Toys R Us. I could go stand in line at that Toys R Us, and I'm sure I'd get in. And each time I would drive up, see the line wrapped around the store, and drive right back home to my house. So I don't know. I guess I've never needed an item that badly or thought that there was a good enough deal out there to go elbowing my way through Black Friday shoppers. And I'm totally a wimp, and I totally believe all the news stories about people with doors caving in and people getting trampled and shot in fights and everything else. So it's never seemed that much of a deal to me. And this year I want to try and do as much as I can. Oh my goodness. I want to try and do as much as I can with small independent businesses and by making things, which is, my family does that a lot. I think we try not to be too commercial or too overpriced with our Christmas celebrations. So I hope everybody had a good Thanksgiving, and I hope everybody's ready to jump on into the Christmas celebrations, which from what I can see on Ravelry and from what I can see on Instagram, everybody's in there. I can't believe the people that have already put up their trees before Thanksgiving comes around, or the people that that's their tradition. It looks like, is putting up the Christmas decorations on Thanksgiving. I don't know. My family has never done that. I definitely love them. I love the time of year when the Christmas decorations can be out, but we're always cooking on Thanksgiving, so we don't really have time to do all the decorating. So yeah, I didn't go out. One thing I do, my family does a lot of, I'm divorced, and so my son is normally with my ex-husband on Thanksgiving, because he's always with me on Christmas. It's not a legal arrangement, but it's the arrangement we have, because my ex is such a grouch at Christmas time that I told him that I would not let my child's childhood be ruined by his dad being a grouch every year at Christmas. So since he didn't have to be around that, I figured he shouldn't have to. He shouldn't need to, and I wasn't going to let him. So that's just the way it's worked out. Most Thanksgivings, my son is with his dad, but his dad's family did some different stuff this year, so he wound up being with me, which was wonderful. My family and my household, which is my mom, my dad, myself, and my son, and Molly the poodle, all went to my sister's house. My sister lives in a town over, with her new baby, of course, my nephew, my lovely little nephew that I post all the time. Like, half my Instagram pictures are him. It's either him or Zachary or Yarn. That's pretty much it. So we all went down there for Thanksgiving, just a very nice, quiet Thanksgiving. But then what usually happens, since my son is not with me, is the day after, on Black Friday, my mother and I sit and knit on whatever we're working on for Christmas gifts while we watch QVC. But my son was here this year, and we went off to see a movie today, a really good movie. I'll tell you about that later on. And so we didn't even really turn on the TV until just about close to dinner time. And the only thing we did was we snapped up a Mrs. Prindables gift pack, if you've ever seen those. Mrs. Prindables is a dessert company, I guess. They're famous for their apples. They have the candy dipped apples. So it's not just a caramel apple, it's like caramel, then it's dipped in chocolate, it's caramel, and then it's dipped in chocolate covered pretzels, or it's dipped in caramel and then it's dipped in some kind of M&M or some kind of, M&M's I think is one, or the one they had today had like the little chocolate chips that had like red and white sprinkles on the chocolate chips, and then that was what was stuck to the caramel that was stuck to the apple. Yum! So there's like a pack of 16, and again, my mom and I grabbed that, and we thought that we could split it for the different gifts. She would give it to the people in her office, I would give it to my classroom assistant and my intern and my coworker. Ignore this if you're listening, coworker. And then my son had decided that I needed to knit more gifts for more teachers, more like helpers in the classroom, in his classroom, and I told him I'm not knitting another thing. So we think that maybe we'll give a couple of those to those people as well. So we got one of those, and that's really all that we've done this year. It's been kind of an unusual year, but good, still the same. So I've really liked my break because I've gotten to spend a lot of time with my son. So that's good. So other than that, I'm just, like I said, I'm trying to make sure that my Christmas is as much handmade as possible. My son and I, like I said, are taking a trip just after Christmas, and basically this year, if I'm not making it for you, you're probably not getting it. I do have a couple little things I do, like little barmaids bars that I put in stockings and everything, but my family has already decided, especially with my new nephew now, that if it's not something for the kids, it's not something for the children, and it can't fit in an adult's stocking, which we have pretty big stockings anyway, it's not getting done. Adults don't need Christmas, the kids do. So I'm making a lot of things, and you'll see a couple of those things as we go on here. So I'm doing a lot of making, and that's exactly what I have to talk about here. So let's get into the show. So, yes, for thing one, I have finished objects. And yes, there was an S on the end of that because I have a couple finished things. So please tell me I did not. I think I lost something. Oh, no, there it is. Oh, I'm going to have to stand up. I'll probably flash you. I am fully dressed today, even though it is very late. It's like 10 o'clock at night on Friday, and I'm just now podcasting. It's just been crazy, and I hadn't felt like stopping what I was doing, so I'm sorry. I know I didn't record on Monday, but it was impossible. With a 2-day school week, just crazy the things I had to get done. So, finished objects. I finished number one. Let's grab that one first. Number one, I finished the corrugated cloche. This was an interweave. No, this was a knitwear pattern from last fall. I'm trying to see if the book, nope, not in my stack of books here beside my bed. I think it was the fall issue from 2011. So no, that wasn't last year. Fall 2011 Knitwear magazine, the corrugated cloche. And so it's a cloche, I believe, because it's a very close-fitting hat. It's supposed to be just, like a cap style. I believe that's what the cloche is. The corrugated comes from the ridges that are there, and it has a cool little gather feature there, and that was fun to do. You went through and kind of knitted, very similar to my Water's Edge cardigan, which is what I've been working on. So if you did Water's Edge and you got that fold where you have to go, you're on the right side of your knitting, but you kind of peek into the back side and you knit through a stitch from the back so that it folds that fabric up, and it's really neat. So I did some modifications on this hat, and I'm going to put it on in a minute, but I want to show you what I've done first. I did some modifications. The pattern calls for sport weight, and I didn't have a sport weight that I wanted to use. I really wanted to use this for my Diabetes Awareness Month knit along. So I wanted to use the blue, which is a DK weight. So I did some calculations, and in my lovely mathematical mind, I thought that because it was a DK weight, that I could knit the smaller size. That was good. But I was concerned about it being too tight and too small because I have a lot of hair. A lot of hair. So I was concerned about it being too tight and not fitting on days when my hair is a little more voluminous than others. So I added 6 stitches back in, and now that the finished object is here and I've tried it on, I didn't need those extra 6 stitches. I think I would have been okay just going to the smaller size. I think my head, for my head size, head circumference, I would need the larger size. So I think I would have been okay using the DK weight and knitting the smaller size, and that was all the modification I needed to do. So adding the 6 stitches in, I think got me off. I think that gave me an extra inch that I didn't need. I think if it was an inch smaller, it would fit even better. And my row gauge was a little bit off, so I decreased at a much faster rate on the top than was required. The way the decreases went, you should have decreased at the same rate that you were making all the corrugated ribs. You should have decreased at that same rate at the top, and I didn't need to because I already had the length, the depth that I needed once I had gotten past the folds. So I'll try it on. You can see how much bigger it is. I think it's still cute. I think it's still wearable. Hold on, let me try that again. I think it's still wearable, but I think I would have liked it better if it was a little more snug. But it's still cute. I think it's still manageable. But yeah, see, there's still a little bit of extra gathers and puckers, and it's not really supposed to be slouchy. But I've worn it a couple times. I really like the color. I think it'll work just great. So that's one finished object, and this one was for me. But I found I had a lot of chances where I needed just plain knitting, things that I didn't need to think about, and I knew that I could, in between the rows, I could just do my plain stockinette. And once I did the first fold, I remembered that it was just like what I did for Water's Edge, so I was able to do the fold without looking at the pattern either. And then it's straight knitting for that until you get past the fold, so I had, the majority of the hat that I could work on without needing a pattern. So it went with me lots of places when I needed just plain knitting. So that's my corrugated cloche, and that's FO number 1. And I had lots of yarn left, so I don't know what I'm going to do with this, but I had a goodly amount left, not as much as the whole hat, about half as much as what the hat called for. So I definitely have something I can do with that, maybe some fingerless mitts or something. So that's one object. The next one is also a hat. This is the Trilobite hat that's going to go for my son's math and science teacher, which I think is a perfect person to knit a Trilobite hat for, right? Very mathematical with the figuring out of the pattern, and very scientific with the Trilobite, which is a fossil. So this is the Trilobite hat. This was in the both of these yarns were actually the Leading Men Fiber Arts in the that was the deep sea. The blue was deep sea, and it was the DK weight, which I think they call Dramaturg. This gray is the London Fog colorway, and it's the worsted weight, which I think they call the Showstopper base. I should have taken better notes. Sorry. I'll put it in the show notes, which I should have time to do since it's the weekend now. So I think the Showstopper base is their worsted weight, but so the gray is London Fog, their worsted weight, which I think is Showstopper, and it turned out perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. I really like this hat. So if you can see the little trilobite, this is the front of the animal, and it goes up to the tail, and it has this little spine, which is exactly what they have, and has the little nodules on his head, which is kind of like a horn shape. Trilobite looks a lot like a horseshoe crab. But a horseshoe crab, of course, has the tail coming off it too. And I don't think a trilobite has ever been known to have that tail coming off of it. So I think it worked out very nicely. I think it's a really nice short style. It just touches the top of my ears. So I'm thinking on a man's head, which I think is a little bigger than mine, maybe. It should be just like a little beanie style hat, which is, I think, a very cute style, and I hope that his teacher likes it. So, very cute, very lovely. And this is one of 3 that I want to knit this season, although I don't know that I'm going to get a chance to knit the 3rd one because I think my mother has already knitted it because we love this pattern. And we realized, I thought that a couple episodes ago I mentioned that I had done one for my dad, and I didn't. Totally didn't. So I think my mom is doing one for him. So this is the Trilobite hat, and that's my 2nd finished object. And I'll start there. Oh, and look how much of the yarn I have left. Yay! Again, not enough to do a whole nother hat, but that's a lot left over. And that will make something equally as lovely. Not quite as much as the blue, but still a good amount. So I left off with Trilobite, and I'll start with the next Trilobite that I'm knitting. I'm also knitting one for a friend of mine, and this time this is out of, oh, and I need to see if I have the tag. This is out of some Madeline Tosh DK. What's that called? Madeline Tosh DK. Is there a name for Madeline Tosh DK? And this is absolutely gorgeous. I'm trying to see if I have the tag in here, but I've had it in a couple different bags. Oh, you know what? The tag is in the bottom of the ball band. I don't know if I can get it out of there. So Mad Tosh DK, which we all know is a little bit, oh no, it's not Mad Tosh DK, it's Mad Tosh Vintage. Sorry. Let me get the, oh, and this is the Cousteau colorway. So Madeline Tosh Vintage in the Cousteau colorway, and vintage is all superwash, 100% superwash. It's a worsted weight yarn, and it's 200 yards or 182 meters per skein, and this is working out really nicely too. I did the twisted rib on this one as well as on this one. I did the twisted rib for the cuff, and I think it turned out beautiful. Do you see like that little dip? I think it's going to be really nice. There's just like a little dip there at the end, and I don't know if that's just the way the yarn worked up, or if that's because I knit the first row flat to make sure that I wouldn't twist it. But I think it's really, really nice, and this is showing up well too. I've just done the first bobble on here, and I think this might be turning out a little bigger than, I think it might be turning out slightly bigger than the Lehman fibers. I don't know, maybe not. Maybe it's just because it's only the ribbing right now. Really, I've just gotten into the pattern just a little bit. But I think it's turning out very nicely. And the colors are really great. So this one is Cousteau. My mom and I sat and ordered a bunch of these one day for Christmas gifts, and we ordered Cousteau. We ordered one I think called Forestry. They're all so beautiful. How can you decide when you get on webs and start ordering colors? How do you decide? So beautiful. So that's what's in this bag. This is one of my in progress projects. I also have this the second one of the traveling sock to do, and this just seems to be going so slowly. I think I need to switch needles. These are size 1 needles. I think they're the 1.5 millimeter size ones. And my hand gets really tired and really sore after a while. So I think it's the combination of the needles and the yarn, because I haven't noticed this on other socks that I've done, and I've knitted all of this round on these needles. But this is the last sock. The next sock that I do, the last sock that I have to do a pattern for, the next sock that I do is I just have to do the cuff, and I'm planning on just doing that twisted rib and sending it off. And then the sock circle should be done before Christmas. So that's great that everybody will have their sock back by Christmas time. Really, really great. I know that my sock is out there somewhere, and I think it's with whoever needs to do the cuff as well. So that circle is almost done, and I think when I'm done with that, then I'm going to be done with sock circles for a while, at least until I get a chance to knit some of the socks that I have my eye on, and some of the lovely self-striping yarns that I have my eye on for myself. I want to do that. And when you're knitting the socks in the sock circle, you're knitting just a little piece on a sock and then sending it off, but you're doing that 8 times or 7 times. So it's like knitting socks for yourself anyway. So I might as well use some of the sock yarn that I want and that I like. So I mentioned the blue with my blue hat, that I was using that as one of the knits for my Diabetes Awareness Month knit along, which ends tomorrow. Hopefully by the time you see this, maybe you'll have a little bit of time to edit or to go back out and enter your posts if you've been knitting. I hope I made it clear before that even if you're just working on a project, you can enter it. Matter of fact, I might keep that thread open through the weekend so that if anybody sees this over the weekend, even if it's already December 1st, you can still enter your or post your entries, because I wanted people to get credit even if they were still working on a project. You didn't have to finish the project to get credit, you just needed to work on something blue. So if you were working on something blue for the month of November, it can even be something you started before November. I know that Christy from the In a Snip podcast entered some socks that she had already started that she was continuing to work on this month, and she entered those, which is perfectly fine. So the real thing that I wanted to do with the Diabetes Awareness Month knit along, which was the damn knit along I discovered, which is ever so fitting for diabetes and me these days, just to get people kind of thinking about it, because this was Diabetes Awareness Month. And so just to get people thinking about it, and then maybe, possibly, hopefully, to get you in a conversation. So if you were knitting in public, or if you were knitting around your family, you could have a conversation about something about diabetes and then post that as well. And I know a couple of people have posted, like Heather, also known as Bunnyfish. She has a podcast as well. She posted that she was knitting on something during one of her virtual knit nights, and that somehow they got talking about something, and I need to ask her. I asked for clarification. I don't think I ever got it. Maybe I should get in touch with her and clear things up. But she said something about diabetes being linked to accusations of vampirism. Is that a word? Vampires being linked to people with diabetes, and that possibly the two things were kind of confused, or lines were blurred somewhere, where someone with diabetes might be thought to be a vampire somehow. So I don't know. I need to check into that. But that was an interesting conversation that she just happened to have because she was knitting on that during her knit night. And I think that's great. And she entered for that as well. So I will keep the thread open, I think, throughout the weekend, just to make sure that everybody gets a chance to post. And then if I have some stuff ready to go again on Monday, I will record again on Monday. I might just record on Monday, just say hi, how you doing, draw the names, because the What You Knitting in November will be over then as well. So maybe I'll do that on Monday, draw names, and check in again just to say hi. Even though I'm recording now and it's already Friday. There won't be too much in between there unless I really get knitting. So go out and post your entries in the Diabetes Awareness Month knit along. I've heard lots of chatter in the What You Knit in November thread, so thank you very much for posting. And I love to see all your hand knits, and I love to see what you're working on, so keep that going. Very, very, it's very inspiring to see all of those. The progress on my sister's Stitch Surfer. Hopefully she never finds this podcast before Christmas. And I turned another heel. So here's the second sock. Let me show you the first sock too. Here's the first sock. And here's the second sock. So as you can see, I made sure to make them opposite from each other. I used the striped yarn as my main color here, which meant that here I needed to use the solid as my main color. That way when you stand together, you get a swatch of stripes doing a little wave down the middle. Or if you wear them this way, you get a swatch of purple doing a wave down the middle. So I just love this pattern. I can't wait to knit my pair once this is over, because I'm totally knitting this again for myself. But this is really fun to do, and I turned the heel on, I want to say Friday, but it wasn't Friday, it was Tuesday. I turned the heel on Tuesday. That was the last day of school for me for this week. So now I'm just onto the cuff. I've started doing my surfing again. You can see back there I've started increasing and decreasing again there, so that I'll continue to make the sway. So I'm onto the cuff there. That's the home stretch. I guess I'm about maybe about 4/6 done. 2/6 left to go. 1/3 of each sock, maybe? I don't know. Clearly I'm not mathematic. Clearly. I just follow the pattern. I don't create them. All right, so that's my Stitch Surfer. I'm using some Inspiration Dye Works yarn on one side and some Miss Babs on the other. They're really great yarns. I definitely highly recommend them. And then the next thing I wanted to show you was the shawl that I'm making for my mother. So I hope she's not walking around back there. What in the world is going on? I think there's a lot of static in my room because my note-taking machine back here, oh, and I'm sorry, you guys were shaking there. My note-taking back here is going crazy. Very crazy. All right, so I'm working on a shawl for my mother for Christmas. Shh, don't tell her. And I'm using, I just realized today when I was looking, I'm a part of the Club Awesome, which is a yarn club from Neighborhood Fiber Company, Cephalopod Yarns, and Dragonfly Fibers, which are all local dyers to me. They're all like within an hour's drive, maybe 45 minutes drive. Dragonfly Fibers is to the west, about 45 minutes, and Cephalopod and Neighborhood Fiber are about 45 minutes to an hour north in Baltimore. And I just realized when I was doing some communicating back and forth with Karita from Neighborhood Fiber about the package this time, that I'm totally using local dyers for this shawl. So let me show you what I'm doing. This is a mystery shawl. This one's called, it's from Fiddle Knits Designs, and it's called the Better Together shawl. She has a You and I series where she's doing a couple different mystery shawls. And this one is supposed to be it's supposed to be done, it was designed to be done with 2 colors for your birthstone. So if someone's birthday was May and, I'm trying to think of ones I know, May and February, which would be my son and myself, then you would use an emerald green and you would use a lavendery purple. So emerald green for May, lavendery purple for February for amethyst. And you would use those 2 colors in the shawl. So my colors don't quite match up for the intended, not the recipient, because the recipient is my mother, but I wanted to use colors that represented her 2 grandsons. So I chose the dark green that you see is supposed to be the blue. My nephew's birthday is March, which I know is aquamarine, which is a very pale blue, but he's a very vibrant guy, so I'm thinking the dark is okay. So the dark represents him, and then the light purple, which technically for February for amethyst should be deeper, the amethyst represents my son, who is a very gentle soul. So I think that the light color represents him well. So the light purple is for my son, the dark blue is for my nephew, and these are the 2 grandsons for my mother, who is the recipient. So hopefully she's not hearing any of this, because she is downstairs somewhere. But this is a 2-color shawl with a lovely slip stitch pattern. There's my center. I'm not going to show you the center too much because I really actually messed up. That should not be, these slip stitches should not be purple, and that one definitely should not be that long. So it's got a bunch of slip stitches every so often as you go along the pattern. You always slip the same stitch, and it's making a beautiful winged, is that the right side? No, I don't want to show you that side because that side's ugly. Let me show you the side where I did a good job. With a beautiful kind of winged edge to it, winged curved edge to it, and it's turning out very nice. I love that it's on a garter stitch background. It's really fun to knit, nice and squishy. I love the 2 colors together, and I like it even more now that I remembered that these are some local dyers for me. So the blue is Cephalopod Yarns, and it's the Box Jellyfish colorway. It's the Bugga yarn, the fingering weight yarn, and the purple, which may be turning out a little gray, although it looks kind of purple on there to me. The purple, or the lavender, or the gray, is Neighborhood Fiber Studio Sock, and it's the Lauraville colorway. It's my favorite of her colorways. I'm really not a pale purpley kind of person, but the way this yarn is gray in places, and it's purple in places, and it's very lavender in some other places. I just really like it, and I've sent it a couple times when I've been in swaps and people have liked that set of colors. I've made sure to like hunt down a skein of Lauraville to send them because I just think it's so pretty. So that is my mom's Christmas gift. And I'm on Clue 2. I should finish Clue 2 this weekend if I get back to knitting like I should. And I have knitting tomorrow. My knit group meets tomorrow, so hopefully I'll be able to get some done. I'm on Clue 2. The third clue was released yesterday afternoon. So the third clue is out. And hopefully I'll be able to get to work on that soon and kind of keep up with it, because the way she's got the clues releasing, you should be able to finish it. I think it finishes like the 16th of December. The last clue comes out. So you should be able to finish it and block it and give it away. Although, since we live in the same house, I will probably finish it and we will block it together on Christmas Day. So that's what I'm working on. A ton of what I'm working on. So the only other thing that I have to talk to you about, because there's no thing to, I did do a little bit of spinning tonight, but it's still more of the blue that I was working on last time. There's not really much to show you. I didn't want to take the bobbin off the wheel, so technically there's no thing to. And Fox and Socks is all in there with all the Christmas knitting. There's only the one sock really going on, so there's not really much use in doing a different segment for that. So the next thing I wanted to talk about was things that I'm planning. So on to the things you can think. I'm looking up something on my phone real quick because I want to mention this Raveler's name and I don't remember it. So I always join, because I'm so silly, I always join, what in the world is that? There we go. I am not used to the iPhone update. I don't get it. Is that it? There we go. I know I've got Ravelry on here somewhere. I always have Ravelry open. Oh, come on. I always have Ravelry open. There it is. So I always join pools. If you guys didn't know and you guys watch reality TV, especially some of like the contest shows where people get kicked off, or they go through eliminations down the line, there's almost always for every show there is a Ravelry pool. So I always join Dancing with the Stars and Survivor, which are two of the shows that I watch all the time. I also watch Amazing Race every season, but I never join an Amazing Race pool. I don't even know if there is one, but I'm sure there is, because there's one for everything. There's one for Top Chef, America's Top Model, all of them. There's a pool out there. Join a pool. You get assigned randomly to somebody at the beginning of the season, and then if your person wins, everybody sends you yarn. It's awesome. Because I've won like 3 times. It's awesome. So I lost this time, which I was like, oh, I lost. And then I went, well, I guess that means I have to send somebody something. Because seriously, last spring I won both Survivor and Dancing with the Stars, and the time before that, I think over the winter, I won one of them that I was in. So I've been winning like crazy. So this was the end of the Dancing with the Stars round, and I did not win, but Knitting Freak, who is Brigitte, won, and Brigitte is awesome. Brigitte and I have exact tastes, matching tastes. It's awesome. She posted things she likes. She didn't mind getting gift certificates from Webs. She wouldn't mind getting some, there it goes again, my cursor is just like, has a mind of its own. Creepy. Anyway, sorry. She didn't mind getting Webs gift certificates. She would love Wollemizer, Cephalopod yarns, a bunch of wonderful, great yarns, and I even had some in my stash that I could have dug through and to see if I could give to her. But she also said, oh, and here's my wish list for patterns in order of preference. So I'm like, okay, let me see what her patterns are. I click on her patterns and I want all of them, or I already have them. All of them. So I did a little shopping for Brigitte, and I did a little shopping for myself. So I sent her a couple of her patterns, and then at the same time, once I was done sending them to her, I went back in, bought it again, sent it to my own library. So I just want to talk to you about a couple of them, and then I also wanted to talk about some of the patterns that just came out from the Winter Twist Collective. So Spring Showers is first, and that's by Joji Locatelli. And I meant to do this. If I had done this during the week, I would have had my son's iPad here, and I would have been able to jack his iPad and show you the patterns. I don't think you're going to be able to see them on my phone if I get them up, so maybe I'll try it just in case, but I'm going to tell you about them anyway. So Spring Showers by Joji Locatelli. her designs are beautiful. A lot of them are very similar, but what I like about her designs is they're very simple, very clean lines, and they're always flattering. Well, most of them. Some of them would not be flattering on me, but this one totally is. So Spring Showers. So about Spring Showers, it's an open cardigan with vertical lines running down the body of the garment, and you get those because you knit it side to side. So it gives a great visual aspect to the design, and she said it's supposed to be like the rivulets of rain falling down the window pane. Awesome. It's knit side to side. Looks like a great way to show off some hand-dyed or kettle-dyed yarns. It's just, it's really pretty. Let me find one that's a really good, there, that one. Oh, it's just so, so pretty. And it's done in a couple hand-dyed skeins, a couple, I don't know that that's the best picture. A couple hand-dyed skeins, a couple solid skeins. But if you can see, it's just got some really great clean lines to it. There's a good picture. And I think the side-to-side construction will be very interesting to work on. So that one I'm excited to work on. I'm really excited for that. I also bought from Joji, I also bought her boxy and buttony cardigan. No, it's a pullover, which I know that on the Yarniacs podcast, they've talked about that one a lot, and how it's a lot. There's a pattern called boxy, and then there's a pattern called boxy and buttony, and they're very similar. There's a little bit more details to the boxy and buttony. There's a panel of stitch patterning going down the front to give it a little bit of interest, and the buttony part is because on the side of the sleeves there are buttons going all the way down the sleeve. But it's called boxy because it's a very boxy bodice. Very boxy bodice, very fitted sleeves. So the sleeves are very fitted up to the elbow, and then they're slightly bigger from the elbow to the shoulder, but not much. But then you get a big boxy shape throughout the bodice, and I think that's really pretty too. And I think it'll be very flattering. Which one should I show you here? Let me show you the one where you can see all of the details on the sleeves, because this one I think is very pretty too. And you can see maybe. Okay, so apparently I'm out of storage space on my iPad, so it shut down. I tell you what, things are going crazy tonight. So, boxy and buttony looks like this. And hopefully you can see there's buttons down the sleeves. You can see how big the bodice is because you've got a little fold there as she has her arms crossed over. And you can hopefully see down the center, there's a little bit of stitch detail there to make the front a little more interesting. So I really like that one too. So I got both of those from Joji Locatelli today. There's another one called Every Last Yard by Amy Swenson. So this one is a basic open cardigan. And now it's not going to, I can't shrink this stuff. I swear there's a ghost in here this evening. I don't know, but I can't get, Joji won't leave. She likes my phone. Okay, you can stay. So Every Last Yard by Amy Swenson is a basic open cardigan with no finishing. When I read the details for the pattern, she said when you are finished knitting, you just put the sweater on and you wear it. There's nothing to be sewn in. There's no, oh, go back and do this. Oh, go back and do that. Oh, now attach your sleeves. Now get ready to do a button band. As you're knitting from top to bottom, you're doing everything at the same time. It's done. It's got a little bit of lace detail for a good portion of the arm, maybe a couple inches below your elbow, all the way to the cuff, and the same distance on the edge of the sweater, on the edge, like the hem. Very pretty. It's meant, the name is Every Last Yarn, and it's meant to use up as much as you have, you know, so that you don't have to worry about running out of yarn. And she even says that the lace pattern that she chose is interesting no matter what row you stop on, so it won't look like, oh, you ran out of yarn and just stopped. You can knit until you have used up every last yard of your yarn. So that one sounds really great and very interesting to me. So there's that one. And I did buy that one. There's another one called Zola from Carol Feller. It's got an interesting construction as well, and that's what I really like. If I'm going to knit something, I like to do something that has an interesting construction to keep my attention. So a lot of things that I like, a lot of things I put in my queue or things that I like to knit are things that are not just top to bottom. This is what you do. Now do this for, you know, inches and inches and inches. So Zola is just a little vest, although in the instructions there are apparently directions for a cap sleeve. And for this one, I believe, you knit the back and then the sides are knit lengthwise, so they're knit from side to side and picked up from the back. And then the pocket is kind of added on and folded over. There was a sweater like that, very similar to that, over the summer that lots of people were knitting. Let me see if I can find that one for you. Oh, I don't know if you can see that. There we go, because the sweater is very light. And I think that will be very nice. It's a solid color here. It's actually knit in Euroflax linen. And what I have some Euroflax linen in my stash. Years and years ago, I had this idea that I was going to knit a ruffled skirt with some Euroflax linen. So I actually have a sweater's worth or more of Euroflax linen. There's the pockets. I have at least a sweater's worth of Euroflax linen, but I don't have all one lot. So I plan on doing this. I need to see how much I have and how I can alternate the skeins. And it'll probably be a solid back for the color that I had to go as the underskirt, and then wide bands of color for the top of the vest. But I think that'll be really pretty. And I don't know, I think this will be a very nice knit to have on, where you can, so that even in the cooler weather, even in the warmer weather rather, you're still able to have on knitwear. And it just looks very comfy, very casual, but yet a way to kind of put a look together and stay polished. So I really like that as well. So those are the ones that I found from my friend Brigitte, my new friend Brigitte from the Dancing with the Stars pool. But the Twist Collective is out now too. So I just want to mention a couple of things. I haven't really kind of gone way into them, except for one of the patterns. But the Twist Collective is up, and I'm not going to be able to pull all these up because I don't have them saved in my favorites or anything. Although I might be able to look up. I don't know. We'll see. There's just a couple that I want to mention. Peloponnese, I probably didn't say that right, by Sandy Rosner is a colorwork cardigan. But it's colorwork the way I would do. I really am not interested in colorwork at all. I don't like the spotty nature of it. I don't know exactly how to describe it, but it always looks very spotty to me. It always looks very random and scattered. I like things to have a nice, neat little box to fit into. And if it doesn't have a nice, neat little box to fit into, I'm probably not interested. So the ones that have the different yokes to them that are, you know, a stitch is purple here or there, or a stitch is green here or there, I'm not too interested in that. But this is color work that I would do. So this is done on the Twist Collective cover. It's done in 2 shades of Miss Babs. It's a solid black for the main body, but then going for the edging around the bottom of the sweater and the cuffs, for the button band that comes up the center, and for the yoke, there is color work, but it's very crisp, very clean, and it's got definite sections of stitching, and that stitching is done in a hand-dyed yarn, so it adds a little bit of visual interest. But it's very geometric, very color within the lines type knitting. It's really, really pretty, so I really think you should check that out. Peloponnese, Sandy Rosner, color work, Miss Babs. Awesome, right? There's also one called Afira by Josie Mercier. It's a beautiful off-center cable that has a mimicked cable down the sides of the arm, and I love that. One of the things I want to do one of these days is just design a sweater that I know is going to fit my body when I find that perfect shape. That's just very plain, but has a nice, beautiful cable going down the sleeves. I think that's really, really pretty. And this one is very pretty. This one has the cable is off center, so it just goes down one side of the bodice. It's got a gorgeous collar to it, and again, those cables down the sleeves, beautiful, really, really pretty. There's also a wrap called Ison, which is a beautiful ruffly shawl, and it reminds me, it's supposed to mimic ice crystals, which reminds me of the movie we saw this weekend. With my son, he wanted to go see a kid's movie. He just likes going to the movies. So we went to see Frozen, And I thought, because we've been seeing every kids movie we've been to for like a year has had the little snowman whose nose keeps popping off, and the reindeer who wants to eat the nose because he likes carrots. I thought it was going to be a movie about them. A bad mommy, I didn't check it out at all. He wanted to see it, so I went to see it. But it was a really good story. I didn't know it was a Hans Christian Andersen story. And in usual Hans Christian Andersen style, the parents die, and the whole story hinges on true love's kiss. Right? And my son, I could hear him in the corner of his ear after they'd said it like 3 times in the corner of my ear. He says, "Doesn't it always come down to true love's kiss?" So I think he had been thrown off too. I don't think he expected it to be all mushy-gushy love story type thing. So that was really good. And the Ice and Shawl really reminds me of that because it's just a beautiful movie. I know everything's done computer animated and all this stuff, but the scenes were really, really beautiful, even though I know it's just a computer, it's just pictures, it's a cartoon. It was really, really nice. Very, very visually interesting, even for adults. So, 2 more, and that is Quill by Kate Gilbert. And Quill is a vest. Very geometric. Geometric lines on a great vest. I think it's a good knit for kind of leaving winter behind and moving on into spring, which if you're like me, that's kind of the way knitting a sweater goes with me. By the time I really get into it, the season that I want to wear it for is almost over, if not over already, so I might as well start knitting something for the warmer weather. But it's very geometric. Down the center, the lines kind of angle in, and on the sides, the lines kind of angle down to be, I'm sure, very flattering, and it's all planned out and everything. It's very, very beautiful. So that one's Quill by Kate Gilbert. And the last one is called Terrian by Thayer Priest Parker. This one is just a very plain sweater. It's done in a solid color, and it's got different stitch patterns. It's got a different stitch pattern. I think there's 2 different stitch patterns on the sleeves, but they kind of blend in together. And then I think there's 3 different stitch patterns on the bodice of the sweater. At the bottom, there's 1 stitch pattern that's maybe a couple inches long, and then through the middle, there's another one that's maybe twice that length, and then for the top of the sweater, there's another stitch pattern. So it's very visually interesting, and it would definitely be something that you wouldn't get bored knitting. So that one's Terrian by Thayer Priest Parker. I think that one would be very interesting to knit and definitely would keep your interest. I'm going to try and talk my sister into knitting that one with me because she always complains about being bored with her knitting. So that's it for this week. Again, I will post again on Monday, or I'll record again on Monday and pick winners for the November What You Knitting and for the Diabetes Awareness Month Knit Along. Again, I'll leave it open until December 1st for the Diabetes Awareness Month Knit Along so that you have time to enter entries, and definitely please enter things that you've been working on even if you did not finish them. If you did finish them, you'll get extra credit, extra bonus points, or I'm going to make sure that you get entered twice if you worked on and completed a project. But if you worked on something, I think you should be allowed to enter. And if you talk to people, please make sure that you enter those conversations too, so we can hear what you guys were talking about and things that you maybe discovered. So until the next time I see you, next time I talk to you, I hope your knitting makes you happy. Bye.